Toy Biz began its classic series with Spider-Man in 2001, a line of 6-inch action figures with great levels of detail and articulation. It was a big step up from toys a decade prior, successfully capturing the attention of children and adults alike. Branching off from the series was the Marvel Legends line in 2002, further pushing the envelope with highly articulated, well-detailed figures. Meanwhile, other spin-offs for Spider-Man classics were created for heroes, like the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and the Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk classics began in 2003, albeit not in the traditional 6-inch figure format. What was released were reissues of Toy Biz's older Hulk playsets from 1997. At the 2003 San Diego Comic-Con, Toy Biz revealed the first wave of figures for the main series, due to be released in January of 2004. The first batch consisted of 4 figures: Savage Hulk, Joe Fixit, Smart Hulk, and Abomination. The series spawned the second wave of 4 other figures in mid-2004, adding Gamma Punch Hulk, War Hulk, Absorbing Man, and Mecha Hulk. Being the newest Hulk figures in the market that weren't tied to the movie, I'd imagine many were anxious to get their hands on updated versions of Hulk's various comic appearances and related characters. Even at the time these were on store shelves, a few of them were already in high demand, with some figures being hard to find than others. With each passing year, the demand for them continues to grow, making them highly sought after by Marvel Legends collectors, Toy Biz fans, and Hulk heads. I myself have longed to own these figures, but with how rare and expensive they've increasingly grown, it felt like it was never going to happen anytime soon. All I could do was admire these toys from afar. Until now. I am happy to report that I now own the complete set of the Incredible Hulk classics. It was a long time coming, but I made it my own little goal last year to begin scouring for these figures. Some were harder to find than others. Joe Fixit, Savage Hulk, and Smart Hulk were the common Hulks I saw popping up on eBay and other sites. Abomination and Absorbing Man weren't too difficult to come across, but were surprisingly more scarce than you think. And of course, War Hulk and Mecha Hulk were the hardest to track down, mainly because of the high price point attached to them, especially in the original package, which is what I wanted to go after, as it secured that I have all their accessories and whatnot. The 2 figures I have that weren't sealed are Joe Fixit and Gamma Punch Hulk, but I was able to complete them anyway. Some of you may wince at the thought of me opening these, and believe me, I was thinking the same thing as well for about 5 seconds. These packages are not in good condition. Some of them are yellowing, have dents, cracks, holes, and some weird white stuff inside. Opening them is definitely for the best, but that doesn't mean we can't admire the package design. As this is from 2004, it's in the style of the Incredible Hulk brand that was prominent during this era and features the iconic Hulk art, which a lot of people attribute to Scott Johnson, although this piece on the front was drawn by Stuart Immonen, displaying the Hulk leaping out to grab you. And the Hulk at the back was drawn by Del Keown. There's a summary of the Hulk's lore, images of the figures from the corresponding wave, and a little graphic that shows what gimmicks and accessories each figure comes with. Ages 4 and up, by the way, a reminder that the Hulk Classic series was more targeted toward kids than collectors. That's wild to think about because nowadays you rarely ever see toys as detailed and articulated as these being sold for children. That's now become exclusive to the big boys. Not that kids can't play with Marvel Legends, but it's hard to see a parent spending over $40 on a Hulk when they could get the $15 Titan Hero Hulk, which is the same price that the Hulk Classics were. Although adjusted for inflation, $15 in 2004 would be $26 today, but that's still low, especially for a Hulk figure. The card displays a gamma explosion with bits of a green brick wall remaining intact around the border. I love how the packaging for the series leans into the destructive nature of Hulk. You can't see it on these single figure packs, but other toys in the series include the aftermath of what looks like a bomb, with cars, lamps, and all sorts of debris scattered in the green smog. It's a great style that accurately depicts the Hulk through its atmosphere. The second wave changes up the packaging on the back, replacing the render of Hulk with concept art of the figures by Arthur Adams, a prominent comic book artist and writer who's taken a crack at the Hulk numerous times. Arthur Adams also designed the figures for the 90s Hulk series, so it's great to see that he had a hand in this one as well, and I appreciate Toy Biz adding this to give us a peek at the talent going into these. If only this were also included with Wave 1, but I'm guessing he didn't work on that one. Okay, enough talk about boxes. Let's finally take a closer look at the figures. What's a Hulk toy line without good old Savage Hulk? Or should I say, superposable Savage Hulk with bendable steel girder? So my rendition of this guy was locked behind packaging that was in pretty bad condition. Aside from the yellow plastic shell, unusual white stuff was scattered throughout the figure. I didn't know what it could be, but I was hopeful that when opening it, the answer wouldn't be too bad, but I was wrong. The bendable steel girder is bendable because it is a flexible plastic. I don't know why I didn't think it wasn't, I just sort of assumed it was a sturdier accessory that could only be bent to a certain extent. When you combine that with its age and it's being trapped in this plastic amber for over 22 years, well, of course the accessory would slowly leak its plastic juices over time. Not only did the girder feel gross to touch, but Hulk did as well. He was so slimy and tacky, as if someone just rubbed a stick of butter over him. To add insult to injury, his head popped off. While a lot of that certainly had to do with the girder bleeding out onto Hulk, unfortunately, he also suffered from the same effect by himself. Old toys like this will degrade over time due to the plasticizers used inside of them, which were ironically meant to help them last. But at a certain point, the plasticizers will begin to seep out of your figure. Toys like this being kept in their package for so long without any fresh air coming in just speeds up the process in the same way that we sweat when it's hot. That's basically what's happening, and it causes that sticky residue to cover the figure as the plastic breaks down. This should serve as a warning to inbox collectors that keeping your old figures trapped in their packaging, likely as a means of preserving them the best you can, is actually a detriment. I know some of them look cool and you don't want to lose their value, but you gotta let them out eventually. If you're having a toy existential crisis, then don't worry. There are ways to help slow down the process and remove the stickiness. Some are way more effective than others, and it also depends on the type of toy you have. I went with a soap and water solution by using Dawn dish soap, hot water, towel, and a toothbrush to clean Hulk and the girder. The towel is nice for a general cleanse, while the brush can get into little areas and crevices. I've done this before, so I didn't worry about scrubbing off any paint, but it appears that the girder was built differently as a lot of its paint came off. At this point, I didn't really care too much. It still felt a little tacky after cleaning it, and I think it looks cool with how it gives off the feeling that it's rusty, with the silver coloring showing underneath. Hulk was definitely a lot better afterward. He had little bits of that stick and slime lingering, but as long as it wasn't enough to hinder me from showing him off, then I was good with it. Finally, I just used a blow dryer to heat the head so I could fit it in smoothly. There we go, he's all freshened up. As I mentioned, this is just one of many ways to fix this plasticizer issue, but I don't know if there is any permanent solution to this. Just keep your figures in a nice, cool area where they can breathe, and they should be good. Okay, all that is over with, let's finally talk about the toy itself. The first thing that caught my attention about this figure was his proportions. Long arms, short legs, and a wide torso. I would have preferred it if he were more in tune with how the other Hulks in the series look. The fact that he's on the short side does call more attention to the torso, and overall he appears stockier than most Hulks. Another gripe I have is with his head. The promotional image for this figure had a better paint job, mainly due to the lack of eyebrows. I think they're a little too thick as they're clearly just painted on. Even with these grievances, the figure as a whole is fine. Most of its articulation is in line with what Toy Biz had going on at the time. You've got the single jointed elbow, bicep swivel, wrist swivel, articulated fingers, torso movement where it slides around side to side as if it got chopped in half, armpit joints, and good feet articulation with them being on a hinge, having toe joints, and an ankle swivel. I'm surprised its legs aren't on ball joints, but rather the type where you can't have a complete range of movement, you can only move the legs front, back, and outward. I don't know what this type of joint is called, but it was also on those superposable Hulk movie toys. But unlike those, on this Hulk, you can't actually move his legs back, as they're hindered by his butt. Although what stopped this from being a total downgrade is that Toy Biz added thigh cuts, so at least he can rotate his legs, something that can't be said for those movie Hulks. Also, he's got double jointed knees, so there's another upgrade. I'm just surprised why Toy Biz went with this type of leg articulation when the ball joints were already being used. Hulk's meant to hold the girder, but I found it difficult to do so. His hands wouldn't properly grip them, and because of all that stickiness that transpired, they kept slipping out. I was only able to put it in place by having Hulk hold them with his hands and arms, as if he were hugging the girder. I suppose he could also bend it enough to help get a secure fit. It's a decent accessory for a Hulk, but because of the trouble I had with it and how it still has some of that tacky residue, I'm not keeping it with the figure. So overall, I like this Hulk, but it's hard to recommend when there are better Savage Hulks out there. This figure sits in the middle of everything. It's not bad enough to toss aside, but not good enough to be a must-have. It will forever linger in the purgatory of being a passable Hulk toy. Now, Joe Fixit is a fun character in the Hulk mythos. He's the Grey Hulk who found himself in Las Vegas, working as an enforcer as a means of trying to start a new life and leave behind everything Banner and Savage Hulk represented. He's more intelligent, he smack talks, and isn't afraid to fight dirty. I'd say this figure represents that perfectly. As you can see, this guy was not in the box, so he was already loose. But even so, I still dealt with that stickiness. No worries, I already cleaned it up beforehand, so we don't need to spend any time on that. His accessories are a leather, or rather pleather trench coat, a fedora, and a Tommy gun. I know his fedora doesn't completely go onto his head, it more so just sits there, but I appreciate the inclusion of it anyway. And it's not something that bothers me as much as his gun. It's well sculpted and nicely painted, but getting him to hold it is difficult. A peg is on the side of the handle that is supposed to go into the hole on his left palm, but I can't get it in there, and I worry that with too much force, I'll break it. You can still have him hold the gun any other way, but it's hard to have him wield it with one hand, which sucks because you won't be able to do the gimmick as intended. On his back, there's a lever that, when pressed down, makes his arms go up, hence the quick draw action, and it's hard to do that when he isn't properly gripping the gun. It's also hard to do effectively when he has a trench coat on. I greatly appreciate Toy Biz making this out of soft goods, but I don't think pleather was the best way to go. It just hasn't held up well. I've seen some copies that look worse than others, and I'm glad my edition doesn't look too bad, but it does flake when it's handled. A lot of videos and images of this figure I've seen have his gloves, chest, and head suffering from discoloration, mainly with a yellow tint to it. I wasn't safe from it either, and I wonder if maybe the jacket has something to do with it? Maybe having it on just speeds up the process of breaking down the plastic because it can't properly breathe, especially if you close the jacket. I don't think so, and I hope not, because he looks great displayed with it. Fixit himself is awesome. Without the coat, you can see all the details hiding underneath. There are even more bullet holes on his back. You can also see more of that discoloration I was talking about, but with some blue shades this time near the chest and arms. His head sculpt reminds me of Kyle Holtz's rendition of Joe Fixit during the Paul Jenkins run. And while I do prefer a more Jeff Purvis style Joe Fixit, I'm fine with this figure taken from that look, as I quite like Holtz's art. His head has a greenish hue that I'm not sure was done on purpose, or is just a result of the colors being smudged. His articulation is the same as Savage Hulk's, except for not having those armpit joints due to the gimmick. Accurately, he's the shortest Hulk in the series, so I'm glad Toy Biz paid attention there. This is Toy Biz's second and last Joe Fixit figure, which echoes a lot of what had been done the first time around in the 90s Hulk wave. For a good while, this was the only Joe Fixit in scale as Marvel Legends. It only took 16 years for Hasbro to pick up where Toy Biz left off and produce a new Fixit as a build-up figure for the Marvel Legends Avengers wave based on the Avengers video game. I never owned this one, and I don't think I ever will. I do like the way that outfit looks in the game, but in figure form, I would have liked something more akin to the comics with a big-browed, bowl-cut looking Hulk. I also don't like his skin being a very pale green rather than an actual gray color. I know the Classics Fixit has the green hue on his face, but it's not as noticeable, and for the most part, he is 100% gray. 3 years later, another Fixit was unveiled, this time not being a Build-A-Figure, and being based on the comics with better head sculpts, an accurate color, and a Tommy gun accessory. A year later, another comic Fixit dropped, alongside Patch and a 2-pack that referenced Wolverine issue 8. While Hasbro improved upon on what Toy Biz did, there's still a lot to be said for this one. Regardless of it being outdated, it remains a stellar Joe Fixit figure with an awesome presentation and an array of accessories that help him stand up against modern Hulks. Whether he's referred to as Smart Hulk, Professor Hulk, or Merged Hulk, this version of the character is a combined might of Bruce Banner, Savage Hulk, and Joe Fixit. Although not my favorite Hulk, I gotta say, this figure is top tier. Included with him is a blaster known as the Gamma Sound Weapon. Along with it is an ammunition belt that you can insert into the gun. You can adjust how far it goes into the weapon, but it will always jut out straight. You can't bend it to curve downward to make it look like it's hanging. I thought it was an issue I had due to how long it's been in the package, and because I'm not used to seeing ammo belts like this, but that's how it appears on the promotional image and other copies. With this being called the Gamma Sound Weapon, you can bet a cool blast effect is heard by pressing this button to the side. I didn't expect it to still work after all this time. The weapon has an interesting handle, or handles that you can move. I'm guessing these help those who want to hold it in certain ways. The thin handle may be easier for the hands to grasp than the thicker one, but the thicker one does have a peg in it that's supposed to clip into the hole on the figure's left hand. Whichever it is, like Joe Fixit, it's hard to connect the pegs, so I had him wield the weapon like an ordinary gun. Getting the figure out of the package brought about the same issues I had with the previous guys, so off I went to clean them up. I'm starting to sense a trend here. With that out of the way, I'm liking this figure way more than I thought I would. It's got much more of a presence in person, and I'd say this is one of the more accurate depictions of Smart Hulk with his massive physique. His likeness is spot on to Gary Frank's renderings of the character, who I'd say is a version a lot of fans are familiar with. He's got a signature black tank top, a belt, brown pants, and boots. His shirt and pants have a nice, rough texture that makes him feel a lot more tangible. The only accessory of his when it comes to fashion is these incredibly small glasses that are very easy to lose if you're not careful. They sit well on his head, and the figure is packaged with him on, supported by a rubber band that holds it in place. If you were to open this from its original box, you could keep them on to ensure they wouldn't fall off. Although the rubber band had gotten weak by the time I opened this, so that may vary. I appreciate the glasses having lenses. It adds a layer of authenticity to his specs, and they are magnified, making Hulk's eyes look larger. The top half of his articulation is in line with the Savage Hulk. However, his head and neck are on separate joints. The bottom half gets an upgrade with ball-jointed hips. Now he has way more movement. As with Joe Fixit, Smart Hulk here is Toy Biz's second and last attempt at the character, with the first one being part of the 90s wave, of course. For Hasbro's latest Hulk Marvel Legends series, Smart Hulk made a grand return, essentially being a remastered version of the Classics figure with the same accessories, albeit with a few tweaks and upgrades, like Hulk being modeled after Del Keown's rendition this time, and the inclusion of his bullet bandoliers. But the biggest upgrade is the bunny slippers. Come on, you gotta have the bunny slippers! They're so awesome! Why didn't Toy Biz ever include that? Pink bunnies or not, I'd say the classic Smart Hulk is still a nice figure to have, notably if you prefer Gary Frank's rendition of the character. The first villain of the series is Hulk's longtime foe, the Abomination, with thunderclap action and break apart rocket. When I got this figure online, it arrived in a box that was way slimmer than the others and was really light. For a moment, I was worried I'd gotten duped, but thankfully the figure was in the package. It turns out that the Abomination is just small. I did not expect that. He looked large in the promotional photos, and as Abomination is usually taller than Hulk, I didn't think otherwise, but he's as short as Joe Fixit here. As expected, taking the figure out of the pack met me with the all too familiar grime of that plastic stick. Strangely, this figure was even worse than the previous two, probably from spending too much time in the sewers. Abomination's accessory is different in that it's not something he holds or wears but instead breaks. This rocket, which is sculpted and painted really well, is in 3 pieces. You put them together by stacking them on each other, and by using Abomination's thunderclap, you can break them. Unfortunately, the gimmick doesn't work too well. I can somehow click the arms in place, but when pressing the button to activate it, the arms don't move enough to pull it off. With that aside, Abomination doesn't look too bad. I was shocked to see that he's naked. I always thought he was wearing small trunks, like most of his other figures, as I never took a closer look at this guy until now. His design is very much in line with how you expect a comic Abomination to look, but it's definitely not a classic Abomination. I'm not sure what artist this design is taken from, if it even is. Maybe Tom Marvelli? He's got black spikes on his head, arms, legs, and throughout his back, with little welts on his chest. His notable scale pattern is also present on his arms and legs, with hints of it showing up throughout the rest of the body. Unlike the Hulks, he has an ab crunch that is so difficult to use. I was pressing as hard as I could, but stopped when I felt I had applied enough pressure. Likely a mix of the stickiness and excess paint could have gummed it up. At least he moves fine everywhere else, and has toe joints for his freaky 2-toed feet. Abomination's original release was limited as it seemed Toy Biz either didn't create enough or retailers didn't order enough. This increased the figure's value as collectors looked long and hard to find where this guy could be hiding in toy departments. In response to that, this Abomination was included in a 2-pack with Spider-Man from the Spider-Man Classic Clashes series in 2005. Weird, isn't it? I don't think anyone considers the Abomination a Spider-Man villain, or someone he's had enough interactions with to be bundled together. That's like making the Leader and Red Hulk Captain America villains. Toy Biz came up with a solution to include the figure with Spider-Man because Spider-Man is just a hot property that will guarantee retailers have as much as him on their shelves, in hopes that it would give those who missed out a chance to snatch him up. Although the rocket accessory wasn't included, you'll still have to get the original pack if you want that. Toy Biz had 2 other Abominations, the first being from the 90s, which is a great figure, and the second being a part of the Marvel Legends Onslaught wave in 2006. While the Classics Abomination is a decent figure, there are better choices out there, whether it's from Marvel Legends or not. So it's always a surprise to see this is still going for a relatively high price. I suppose this, being a part of the whole Classic series, just gives it an extra bump, and also because of its scarcity. Unless you're aiming to complete this series, it's hard to say he's worth seeking out. And with that, Series 1 is complete. The mix of obscure and prominent elements of Hulk's comic history made this a sleeper hit for diehards and casual fans who felt it was a breath of fresh air for Hulk after going without a new comic-related toy line for years. It wouldn't take too long for fans to catch the second wave in the summer of 2004. Coming into Series 2 is another Savage Hulk. This time, it's the Gamma Punch Hulk with punching action and Bruce Banner figure. Both Hulk and Banner were bought loose, so I didn't have to deal with the sticky issue, and from this point onward, the whole debacle comes to an end as the remaining figures are stake-free. Off rip, I'm liking this Hulk infinitely more than the first one, and I feel that this should have been the only Savage Hulk for this series, with the extra slot going to another character. Everything about this Hulk is an improvement. He's taller, he's got better proportions, better articulation, and actually looks like he's roaring instead of yawning. I like the decision to go with the short hair. It looks good, and helps him resemble the Hulk artwork on the packaging. Chest and arm hair were added throughout as well. There aren't a lot of Hulk figures with this detail, so that's cool to see. The articulation is better than the previous Savage Hulk, especially with the ab crunch. However, because of the punching gimmick, his arms can't stay in place when you move them outward, as they're supposed to launch back for the punch. The same applies to the waist. It doesn't really bother me, but it is something that can deter a lot of people. This pack is a 2-in-1 with the inclusion of Bruce Banner. He's in his usual attire, specifically with the white lab coat and purple pants. I feel like if this were released today, Banner would be wearing anything but purple. His head sculpt looks fine, but it's a little small, which makes him off when compared to other 6-inch figures. And the paint is scuffed a bit. You'd think he was suffering from vitiligo with the white patches across his face. I had another copy of this figure with much better paint, but its lab coat had pink smudges on the back. This one has pink on its back as well, but it's very faint. Banner also has green eyes over his regular brown eyes. It's not a huge deal, and my copy isn't really as prevalent with it, but this would have worked if the figure was mid-transformation or had a transformation gimmick of some kind. Although since Toy Biz had already done that with their previous two banners, they likely wanted to try something new. Speaking of that, this is Toy Biz's third and last Bruce Banner figure. I don't have the 90s one, but I do have the movie version, and as you can see in this comparison, he is really tiny, a puny Banner. I'm glad Toy Biz had these properly scaled with Marvel Legends for the most part. Banner's articulation is on the same level as Marvel Legends though. His head can move a full 360, as does his waist, his arms can rotate all around, his hands rotate, his legs go in and out with a single turn to knee, and he has foot joints. That's it, no elbow joints, his head can't move up and down, there's no diaphragm movement, and he can't split. It would have been great to have more articulation, but since he's included as more of a bonus, I suppose it's alright. These two complement each other well, and why wouldn't they? They're bundled together. An excellent pack that I'm sure was worth the price back then, and a great start to Series 2. I would have loved to have this when I was younger. I always wanted a Bruce Banner figure, specifically this one, as it looked like the best. I'd argue it still kind of is, as most Bruce Banner figures we have nowadays are MCU versions. Hasbro did produce a comic banner that was a part of the Avengers 60th Anniversary 2-pack with the Grey Hulk. It is a big improvement, but I don't really like the head sculpt. The style of the Classics version is better with the messier hair, but I get this is meant to resemble his first appearance. Same goes for the outfit. The name War Hulk may not be familiar to a lot of people. When hearing that, you may think of World War Hulk, but this is an entirely different beast. After getting shrapnel lodged into his brain, Apocalypse helps treat the Hulk's injury, but not without seeking something in return. He transforms Hulk into War, one of the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse. Throughout this, Hulk is decked out in some hardcore armor and weapons, which the figure accurately nails down. With 6 pieces of accessories, War Hulk with battle action and removable armor includes the most items out of the entire series. You've got the mask, the chest piece, the wrist armor, the sword, and the belt. Everything is beautifully sculpted and painted, as the dents, scratches, and cuts throughout the pieces add a lot of character to this malicious Hulk. The mask specifically has a nice, rough texture that sparkles a bit. The sword is made out of a softer plastic, leaving it bent upon taking it out of the package, but it's nothing that a blow dryer can't fix. His whip, on the other hand, is sturdier, so you can't move it any other way unless you were to also heat it up. I'm just glad it's not made of the same material as Savage Hulk's girder. Now the belt is really soft. I'm sure it's made out of rubber, which is supposed to make it easier to remove. Although I can't see how you do that without stretching it through his legs, in the same way you'd remove pants. I think you're supposed to do it that way, but it seems risky to me, so I'll just leave it on. This sculpt is one of the best Toy Biz has put out for Hulk. It's just so good. It captures the powerful feel that radiates from an Arthur Adams inspired Hulk. The head sculpt is so well done with the way the hair is styled, the strong jaw, the large brow, the prominent cheekbones, and the gritting teeth. To round it out, the paint is top notch, from the eyes to the lips to the teeth, the veins, the pants, and the dirt covering his feet. It's all wonderful. There is a little hiccup with the shade of green chosen on the arms and torso. The arms are darker, whereas the chest is a little lighter. Because the head is the same color as the arms, and the fact that the armor covers a lot of the figure, you can't really notice it. Good for those who display him in his complete getup, but a little unfortunate for those who have him without it. All in all, it's not enough to stop me from singing this toy's praises, and really it's just not that much of an issue. The articulation is in line with the other Hulks, but he doesn't continue with the ab crunch that Gamma Punch Hulk had, unfortunately. The gimmick with this figure is the battle action that you can perform by pressing down the back button. Both of the arms swing back and forth. You're meant to do it with the sword and whip, but it's a lot easier to pull it off without the extra weight. You know what, speaking of his weapons, it was frustrating to put the armor on his wrists, as they're tight enough to not fall off, but not loose enough to be a smooth insertion. I had to really wiggle it to put him in and to take him out, as I feared I wouldn't accidentally snap off the wrists. You'll be able to have an easier time with this by heating the pieces up with a hairdryer or hot water. With a sculpt this good, it's not surprising to see that it was reused for other Hulks, like this 2.5-inch toy from the Marvel Hero series. It's the same mold, but shrunken down. On the flip side, this mold was enlarged for the 12-inch Hulk from the Marvel Legends Icon series. Another popular figure that uses this body is Spider Hulk. Hasbro also took from this mold with the Planet Hulk and World War Hulk figures, with some modifications. The funny thing about the Planet Hulk figure is that it looks like it takes more from Spider Hulk, at least when it comes to the head, as it is the same with the enormous chin. Whereas every other figure in the series so far has other versions through the years, this is the only War Hulk that is currently available, but that would be a bit of an understatement given how much this guy goes for. It's up to you if you want to fork over $100 for it. I'd love to see what Hasbro would do with its own version, but until that happens, this Hulk will continue to have a spot in collections. The second villain for this series is Crusher Creo, the Absorbing Man with mace-swinging action. Like most Absorbing Man figures, he's got some cool accessories. He's got a signature ball and chain, and 2 additional left arms you can swap. The ball and chain is scuffed and has a prominent scratch on it. I thought this was just normal paint wear, but from other videos and photos of this figure I've seen, this is part of the detail. I also thought the chain itself would be a solid piece, but it's loose, like an actual chain. It's fun to mess around with, and looks great hanging from the figure's arm. As for the interchangeable arms, the first one here is a metallic looking arm with pointy rubber fingers. The other arm has normal fingers with darker metal and a rivet texture. The arm the figure has by default is the Hulkified arm. My version is a larger arm, whereas there are variants with a smaller one. Every arm has a double jointed elbow, bicep swivel, wrist swivel, and finger articulation. The only thing the Hulk arm doesn't have over the others is this palm hinge. I was extremely hesitant to swap out the arms, and for a moment, thought I should just not do it, but that would have felt dishonest, so I closed my eyes and took the plunge in hopes the peg on the Hulkified arm didn't snap off. Luckily, it came off with little difficulty, just some light resistance that took more force than I thought. When you do this, it's important to hold the arm by the ball joint, not the bicep. You can see specks of the green paint, which are more apparent on the joint of the arm. Putting the other arms in was just as easy. Wiggle it in there until you hear a click. Because of how huge the Hulk arm is, it's a little tricky to have him properly stand upright, so for display, it may be better to leave either of the extra arms on. It also doesn't help that the joints on my figure are a little loose. I gotta say though, I like seeing his skin fading as the green comes in to better sell the absorption effect. If this were kit bashed onto the Bruce Banner figure, it'd make it look like he was transforming. The figure's right arm is normal, with a neat detail of a chain wrapped around the forearm. The reason for not having any interchangeable parts is due to the gimmick. By pressing the button on the back, he's supposed to swing his arm up and down with the ball and chain in hand, but it doesn't work for me. Absorbing Man himself is an accurate representation of Arthur Adams' artwork. He's got a lot more of a primitive face as opposed to just being an angry bald man. I mean, just check out his throbbing veins, especially that one going from his forehead to his brow. He's got body hair throughout his torso, as well on his right forearm. He's got on half of a prison jumpsuit that even has an inmate number. The paint throughout it really sells that he's just escaped from a rough, dirty place, and I love how he has his pants tucked into his boots, where you can see more of that grime as if he had walked through mud. His head is on a disc hinge, so it can go up, down, and side to side. He's got an ab crunch that works, but doesn't have any waist swivel. The legs are on ball jointed hips with double jointed knees. His foot can move up and down and has a swivel. His ankle can do so as well, and he has toe joints. Just like the Abomination from Series 1, Absorbing Man was also hard to find at retail. leading to him being included in the Spider-Man Classic Clashes series, although this time, it made a bit more sense as the character isn't exclusively a Hulk villain. The accessories were featured as well, so you weren't missing anything in picking up the figure through here. Absorbing Man has quite a few figures out there. It should be expected that Toy Biz previously did an Absorbing Man for the 90s Hulk wave, so this is the second and last one they'd crank out. Or third, if you want to count the David Banner figure from the Hulk movie. Hasbro has some out there, with their latest being from the Secret Wars wave. One of the dullest figures I've seen. How could you make this without showcasing his powers through the sculpt or accessory? That's not Absorbing Man, that's just man. That's a big reason why I think the Classics version is still the best at showing off the character's power sets with the cool extra arms. A better way to go about this is to have more parts be customizable, like his head and legs. But that's yet to happen, as since this one released, other Absorbing Man toys have gone for making his powers a default part of the sculpt instead of something you can switch around. If you'd like to have one with more sauce, then this is the figure to get. While every other figure in the Hulk Classic series is inspired by what's appeared in the comics, we did get one original figure with no prior ties to comics, TV, movies, or games that the Hulk has been a part of. Designed by Arthur Adams, the Mecha Hulk with missile launching action is the first of its kind. Not even being inside the package could contain how massive this thing truly is. I don't think there's a copy of this one that is sealed with no major issues, such as the plastic bubble bending or the card back warping from its weight. I can't believe this thing was hanging on store pegs, if it even was. Handling it in person, out of the package, this is a terrific figure. I can see why it's so sought after. It oozes coolness. How couldn't it? It's a Mecha Hulk. Every little detail throughout is superb. I'm loving all the wiring put into it, especially the ones on the outside that are made of a softer plastic. It adds a lot of depth, given the feeling that this has hydraulics going into it. The elbows move with these pistons that further evoke the sense that this is a real, working machine. What an awesome detail. Thrusters are scattered on the back, with a couple behind the legs, able to move so as to not get in the way of articulation. Again, all this just adds to it feeling so tangible. The radiation symbols inside the shoulders are another great touch. I miss when that was the prominent Hulk icon instead of a generic fist. There's a black wash throughout the figure that makes the metal look real, along with the addition of scuffs, scratches, and rust that make it appear as if it's already been through battle. I find the prominent colors of green and silver to be a nice touch. It's simple, and those greens pop out more than you think. The articulation is fine for how bulky it is. It's pretty much the same as the other Hulks, with some deviations due to its size. You're not getting double jointed knees or an ab crunch here, but the fingers can articulate well, with two pivots at the knuckles near the palm and fingers themselves. It being a mech suit helps hide how unnatural this will look on any other figure, as does everything else. The head is a little restricted due to the way it's designed, with the wiring and piston mechanics going into it, but it's too cool an addition to get upset about. I will always appreciate the extra oomph into something like this. Also, the sculpt itself is nice. It's like the Hulk skull, and those red eyes bring out the evil machine vibe. If I were to find something negative to say, I think the arms should have been scaled down a little bit, specifically the shoulder joints. He just takes up a lot of space on the shelf, and those arms are pretty heavy in comparison to the rest of the body. Mecha Hulk isn't the only figure in this set. By opening its back, you can find the man operating the suit, Gremlin. Gremlin is the son of Gargoyle, who was the first villain Hulk ever fought, although many of you may be more familiar with him from the Hulk animated series. Unfortunately, Gargoyle's mutation was passed on to Gremlin, so he looks just like his father. He uses his smarts for evil acts, like trying to kill Hulk by building weapons. With that, you can conclude that the Mecha Hulk is another of his creations. Gremlin can articulate, with 5 points to be exact, but he's essentially stuck due to what I'm sure is the paint gucking up the joints. I'm positive of that because I used a blow dryer to heat him, trying to loosen them and get him to move, but nothing worked. Only his legs are able to freely swing. That aside, Gremlin looks good, with the same amount of effort put into the sculpt and paint like the main figure. I like how he has a cleft lip, that's a nice detail. I wish he actually sat inside the suit, or at least was securely in place, as he's just loosened there, wobbling around. The last thing to take a look at is the gimmick. 2 missiles are included, which I was worried that I had somehow not gotten with my copy, as I could visibly see one, but the second missile got lost in between the figure. The missiles are designed in a way that you can push them down and they'll immediately spring up upon letting go. There's no button to shoot them out like other toys, so you just open up the 2 pectoral plates, put the missiles in there, and quickly shut them before they escape. Now you can shoot by just opening the plates. No other Mecha Hulk has been produced since this figure, making it one of a kind for now. But like War Hulk, I'd really like to see what Hasbro could do with the new version. This is a great concept made into an awesome toy that is an incredible piece to have with other Hulk figures. As Series 2 concludes, so does the entire toy line. With only 2 waves of figures, this is one of the shortest to come from Toy Biz's Classic series. But that wouldn't necessarily be the end of the Hulk Classics line, as Toy Biz produced other toys under the brand. However, a large chunk of these are simply repurposed toys from the Hulk movie series. The following releases were Gamma Ray Trap Action Playset, Steel Body Trap Action Playset, 12-inch Gamma Rage Hulk, 12-inch Incredible Hulk, Electronic Hulk Rage and Roar Truck, Electronic Roaring Hulk, Electronic Hulk Hands, and the Electronic Hulk Voice Changing Mask. Despite the action playsets being reissued from the 1997 toys, they were given alternate paint jobs. The 12-inch Hulks are in the same vein as Toy Biz's other 12-inch releases, but these look to have way better articulation and paint jobs. The differences between Gamma Rage and Incredible Hulk are their head sculpts, with the former sporting longer hair and gritting teeth, whereas the other has short hair and a roaring face. The Rage and Roar truck includes the aforementioned truck and a Hulk figure. The truck has sound effects, including Hulk voice lines and an engine sound. The figure itself uses the body from the Smash and Crush Hulk from the movie series, but the head from the Joe Fixit figure. It actually looks good. The Electronic Roaring Hulk is a rehash of the toy of the same name from the movie series, just with a different comic-inspired head sculpt. The Hulk hands are the same as those that were released for the movie series, but with a lighter green and a brick-textured Hulk logo on the fists. Yet another rehash is the Electronic Hulk voice-changing mask that was originally from the movie series, this time with the mask being modeled after the comic Hulk. Most of these are just as, and even more so, scarce than the main toys. I don't know how many units of these were sold, or if they were exclusive to certain areas, but they are incredibly difficult to track down and expensive. Despite the Hulk Classics receiving praise from all corners of Toy Biz's demographic, the toys didn't catch on until it was too late, leading to no further waves. But while it didn't last long, its figures have proven themselves to be must-haves for any fan. Recently, Hasbro has released a Marvel Legends Hulk sub-series that has taken some inspiration from this toy line, evidently showing that the Hulk Classics will continue to be remembered for its wonderful and unique action figures that captured everything we love about the Incredible Hulk.